What is up, guys? This is Alex from First of Figures.
Hey everyone, this is Chuckles.
Who do we have here? Samurai Champloo's Mugen! Hey! Check it out, guys. The first in the Samurai Champloo line. Of course, we're kicking it off with Mugen, and we're so really happy to be able to finally show him to you guys after what? It's about 9 months of behind the scenes working on that.
Because 2017 was development for anime. So it's coming up to the second half of 2017, and then there'll be more anime products coming to you guys all the way through 2018.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking we're so looking forward to sort of presenting more and more the anime side of what we offer here at First of Figures. So, absolutely, here we go, guys. Mugen, 1/4 scale, absolutely imposing in an amazingly dynamic pose from Samurai Champloo, and we are really looking forward to going into all the information about how we designed him, why we went with some of the design choices that we did, and hopefully you'll watch the video and you'll learn a bit more about it afterwards.
So if you've been following us for a while, obviously we solely do games related statues. I'm a big anime fan, and I'm really happy to see that we're starting this anime sector as well for First of Figures. So there'll be more to come, and if this is your first time joining us, please please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please also check out our Facebook page, First of Figures. And we also have a collectors club called First of Figures Official Collectors Club. So if you want to follow up with more information with regards to anime line, even the game line as well, please join the club. And Alex and myself will be there every single day, giving you guys lots of information with regards to
some upcoming products, anime, video game related.
Exactly.
All that sort of
everything.
Stuff.
Yeah, and that's right. And before we do a launch, or before we do a documentary, there'll be a post in the club as well called documentary, and then whatever the character is related to. So do a quick search in the club and ask away any questions with regards to the actual product, and we will answer it in this documentary.
Absolutely, guys. So that's obviously for future items.
Future items,
and, absolutely. So yes, we're gonna go on through. We have a bunch of questions.
From the members.
From the members in the club.
Yeah.
Cool. And hopefully, when we answer these questions, it will give you guys more insight to why we made the decisions that we did.
Yep. All right. So we'll just jump straight in. Yeah.
Hey, let's just jump straight in.
All right. Cool. Shall we give this a quick spin?
Hey, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It'd be my pleasure, mate. Turn that bad boy on. It looks really nice how it spins on that.
Very dynamic, but we'll go through that in a little bit later.
Absolutely.
Right. First question from an Austin Paul. How did you get the Champloo license, and what made you choose Champloo?
So, if we go with the first part of the question, or why don't we go with the second part? Why did we go for this license in the first place, and then talk a bit about how we got the license? So, we went with Samurai Champloo because there was a poll I ran in the club. Again, this club is really important because it really helps us to have a direction, and we really have a sense of community there, where we really check in with what people think and really much make a lot of decisions based on what we feel the temperature of the community is. And one of the things that we had done was, hey, we're interested in going into anime. What are some of the licenses that you would be interested in seeing that First of Figures were to make? And there was a whole range of different, there was probably 100 different animes written on there. And we found that obviously that the ones that rose to the top were the ones that we paid quite close attention to. And of course, one of those was Samurai Champloo. So we certainly felt that it was quite popular in the West, which is our main market. And once we had that sort of feeling and sort of gauged that temperature, we said, this is something that we're going to go towards, and we're going to try and get this license. So actually going for the license itself was a little bit tricky, because with anime, we actually went directly to Japan side of things to work directly with the publisher, with the animation house. But actually, when the original company, which is Manglo, actually went bankrupt, so it's actually trying to figure out who actually owned the rights and trying to figure all of that out. And ultimately, that was found out that's with Flying Dog, who have that's over in the east, and Funimation over in the west. So it was actually via Flying Dog, because Kanako, she's part of the team, she actually deals with the Japanese licensing, mainly for the anime side. Got in contact with Flying Dog and arranged all of this, and here we are, working with these guys, and finally being able to make the product and have this up for pre-order for you guys, to have this documentary. So that was the sort of process of doing it. It was pretty straightforward once we could figure out who had what.
Yeah, but obviously because this anime is still very, very young for us, kind of like pretty much, there's a lot of back and forth research, making sure which licenses to go for.
Yes.
Because we won't be just looking for one license.
Right.
We're looking for quite a few.
Right.
So yeah.
And look, I mean, it's no secret that we're actually working on Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
And Cowboy Bebop, obviously, that's by Watanabe as well, and that's the same director.
Yeah, if you're a fan of both animes, that's.
And usually quite a lot of that goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to really go much into Cowboy Bebop now, because that has a sort of jazz and this has the hip hop theme, and it's all very, very unique. And it's sort of quite stand out when you have so many different animes out there. What are the ones that you're going to really distinctly remember? And of course, Champloo and Bebop are ones that are quite, are distinctive. Distinctive.
Cool. All right. Are we happy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Next question from Teo Faminu. What made you choose the pose for Mugen?
So this is obviously quite a unique pose. It's very sort of specific to the character. Now, in the anime, of course, as you know, it's full of breakdancing and hip hop and all of these really quite crazy moves. He's incredibly agile. In fact, his whole body is quite long and lanky and has that almost like crazy flexibility. There's this one scene where he's like throwing baseballs, and when he pitches, his foot sort of like is like above his head as he's pitching you, sort of over the top. But it shows this sort of crazy flexibility and these really quite nimble poses that he can go into. And it was quite specific early on to think that we weren't going to go with something quite traditional, just standing there. That's quite standard affair. It could have been quite straightforward just to do it like that, but
I mean, it works for some certain anime.
Hey, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Obviously, when we carry on going further down the line or different licensed property, those poses will work for those.
Of course,
but for this one, you have to
consider the pose for the character.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody default stands, and then they go into the pose. And ultimately, we wanted to go with something that was quite unique to him, and also quite unique to statues in general.
In general, yeah.
You don't really see too many statues that have quite. I would like to, say it's quite an ambitious pose, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, why did we go for this pose? Well, it was really clear that we wanted to make sure we sort of captured the essence of Mugen and had him doing those sort of crazy breakdancing moves. And of course, in breakdancing moves, you have pirouettes on your hands, you jump on your hands, and spinning and all that sort of good stuff. The question is, can you do this pose?
Yeah, I think I can.
Well, I had to do this pose often just to make sure I had the right pose. But no, absolutely.
This is actually based on my pose.
Oh, right, yeah.
Research, right?
Just hold it in a bit. Absolutely. So it was really important to make sure that we could capture that.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Right. Next question from Brendan Rostello. How did you decide on Mugen's base?
So
base this time.
The pose, he's on top of what is almost like broken down sort of village houses.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, Samurai Champloo is set in sort of Edo, Japan.
Yeah.
And that sort of sort of roof tiles with a sort of wooden structure of the houses of that era. I don't profess to be an absolute historian on Edo period Japan, but certainly you actually see a lot of those houses that are still in Japan.
Yeah.
Right? At least that sort of design has actually made its way and continued through to modern sort of houses and stuff like that. In fact, Kanako's house has this sort of that sort of rounded tiling. It's very, very nice. And we wanted to make sure that it's very Japanese. and wanted to keep that. So this whole crazy aspect of all this sort of stuff, it's based on having some roof tilings, and could it be village houses in a restaurant, anywhere in that sort of village setting in Edo period Japan. You're going to have this kind of traditional type of housing, type of building structure. So that was what the base was inspired about. Now, of course, that is what you see with the beams, and we talked about those, roof tilings. And of course, what else do you see? You see a ton of arrows all over that. And again, it's all about trying to encapsulate that Mugen style and of the show, where it's full of fighting and amazing animation for all the animations and the battle scenes. I mean, they're just absolutely top notch. And of course, in those there are guards, other guys trying to kill them, etc., etc., and they have arrows. And what makes sense is for them to be shooting at him, and here Mugen is. It
just gives it a more intense feeling there, because damaged buildings. You can definitely. He's like, what's his next move? He's going to do a backflip, maybe jumping off the roof onto the ground.
Right.
Avoiding the arrows at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So definitely that was something that we wanted to just give it that little bit extra to make it as if he was right in the middle of a battle.
Yeah.
Which looks like he is. There he is with his his sword out. He's leaping towards somebody.
Yeah.
He's avoided all the arrows. He didn't take an arrow to the knee. And that's where we're at.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Next question.
So the base is supposed to really tell the story,
Yeah.
to help put him in a placement and a time. Sorry, just to interrupt.
No, it's
you
okay.
there.
Fine. All right. Next question from Travis Murphy. What was the most difficult thing to get right in terms of the statue's design? What was the easiest? So, most difficult and most easiest.
Well, let's go back to the pose. And the pose was quite difficult to. I'm just going to pause it actually right here. It's actually a sort of good location to pause it. So what we have here, he's all connected via his right hand on the base, and you can see. Maybe I can. Maybe do it from this side.
Yeah.
Probably from this side over here, guys. There you can sort of see it a bit better, right? So it's not hidden. So you can see the hand. It's all the whole point of connection is right at this point right here. So structurally, internally, there is a ton of engineering work that goes through that in order to keep it stable. So that was an aspect that was always going to be quite tough to deal with, and make sure. Well, first of all, to come up with the pose, and then once you have the pose, how can you do it in a way that is structurally sound? And actually, one of the poses that they originally came up with was actually this foot was actually tipping forwards.
Right.
But I ultimately felt in the concept stage it was going to be too easy for it to fall forward.
Right.
And actually having a better sense of balance when you actually look at this side from here as well. You have
trying to find the right center of gravity to offset.
Exactly. You can see his body's leaning to the right. He's leaning to this way, but his legs are going that way. So it's like almost like a bow, right? You see it's coming round like that. You see that? And that really helps to have the center of gravity be exactly right at the point where he actually is putting his hand on the base. So the whole center of gravity all goes to that point there, and that's something that we had to really go back and forth. And of course, it's something that was looked into, and I consider that to be quite difficult. The second thing that was quite hard was to consider how do you translate by taking a like a 2D anime and put it into the 3D realm. And the style, of course, of most animes is there's not actually much detail, to be honest with you. Sometimes you actually have it where there is no nose when you look from the front, and all you see is a couple of nostrils. It's that distinctive anime style.
The eye as well.
The eyes as well.
When it's drawn, it's like one on this side and one right in front of it.
Right.
And it looks really weird. It looks fine when it's moving on animation.
Right. But it freeze frame so that's always going to be quite challenging for any 2D into 3D, so anime, I should say, anime into a physical product. it's always going to be challenging to try to capture what actually made the character, the essence of that character from the anime and turning it into a physical product. Now, with all anime, we're always going to be faced with how much detail do we put in? Now, we could put a ton of detail into anything, but actually, does that suit the style? Because sometimes it makes sense for there to be like, you can see, for example, his legs, his arms, his face is completely smooth.
Yeah.
Now, we could have, no difficulty, put tons of face pores on him. We could put tons of, skin textures on his hands, on his
veins, right?
Veins. Yeah. We could, we're no stranger to doing that type of product, but ultimately, it doesn't really make sense for anime.
Right.
So actually, what we did was we concentrated. We went for a sort of medium balance. So what we did is, you can see the base. We made that a bit more realistic, more texture than you would find in the anime itself. So you have a lot of texture going all over the tops of the tiles, the wood grains. Absolutely. So there is more texture there and more paint details on the base than there is on his face or his hands or his arms, for example. However, his clothes is something that we added a little bit of subtle detail to. So if you have a close-up of the arms, the clothing, his jacket, his top, his pants, or, his trousers or shorts, I should say. There is a little bit of, cloth texture on there, but it's not so deep that it's like really, really obvious. You got to sort of go up to this sort of level to really take it in and appreciate it.
Yeah. Slight textures on the actual cloth, and then as you say, you can see the threadings around the edges.
Right. And that's actually something that we've added. You actually have a little bit of stitch work going along there. It's quite subtle. And if you're standing from quite a far distance away, you're not actually going to be able to see it. But right? You're not, well, hey, I don't know how good your eyesight is. I wear glasses. But when you're really just sort of wanting to go up and really look into and appreciate it, you can really sort of get that sense of having that extra bit of subtle touches that give it that little bit extra flair. Because when you're dealing with this sort of big scale stuff, it's quite possible that it looks too simple. Yeah. When you're at this sort of big scale, this size, and of course we'll get into the size in a bit later. But you can clearly see, guys, it's not a small piece. It's not a small piece. So when it comes to not having the right answer, because there's no quite right answer, it's really an opinion. It's really, how far do you want to go towards adding realism? How far do you want to keep it stylized? When there's no right answer, you have to then put your mindset, you have to think of the mindset of what would the customers like to see, what would fans of Mugen, what would fans of Samurai Champloo like to see, and then trying to sort of patch your thoughts into what they would like to see, and ultimately come up with that. And of course here we are with that. Now, another thing that we did, which was to sort of make it more into the anime lines, is a lot of the artwork that you get if you sort of freeze frame a frame in the actual anime, or maybe even some of the official artwork, is there is quite a lot of black lines on the body, on the figure, on the piece, on the character at any given time, to really highlight and let your mind sort of make that. So, as we talked a little bit about, for example, on the nose, there might just be two black dots, and that would be the nostrils. But also, even on the clothing, instead of actual hard shadows or something like that, they might do it with sort of line details, some black lines. So if you go and look at the piece in more detail and you have a look closely, you'll be able to see that there is actually quite a lot of different areas that have these little black lines in order to sort of really capture that anime look and feel. And this all goes back to that whole question about what was the difficulty of this, and it was always trying to find that perfect balance between anime and physical world, and how do you do it and capture the anime essence into the physical product. That's always going to be the toughest thing, and that's what we certainly found out.
To manga as well, because a lot of line drawings, a lot of like
Right.
highlights, different
Exactly.
lines like crisscross lines and straight lines and curved lines. You can see that in some of the on his body and his clothing as well.
Absolutely.
It kind of gives off that he's not going to be, he's going to be quite messy and dirty and scuffed up whilst he's fighting and moving.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Totally agree. Totally agree. The other difficult thing was, it was, as I said, we talked about at the very beginning, it's actually quite a brave pose. Because it's so quite unique for statues in general. A lot of people would, consider the fact that because he is facing downwards, I had to really consider that if he was completely facing down, you wouldn't see anything but the back of his head. So we needed to really make sure that if you look from the side over here, that he really has his head, you can see at the neck, really facing upwards as much as he can do, without being ridiculous, right? Of course, you can't have his head do a 180.
Right.
But as much as that we can do, and the great thing about him is he's so lanky and he's quite long.
Right.
So actually has quite a long neck because in the anime he also has a long neck. So it allows for us to get that movement of the head looking upwards to a certain extent. But of course, without a doubt, the best viewing angle for this in your collection would definitely be on the higher shelf.
Yeah, definitely.
So maybe even that it's maybe on the top of a Detolf or something like that would be a perfect place, because you can sort of really capture, you can see
his expression, where his eyes are focusing on.
Right.
Yeah. And it looks like if you had him up high, it looks as though he's lunging down towards you as well.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And that sort of goes in with the theme of him actually being on a roof.
And it's quite a nice vertical piece. It doesn't really take much width and depth. So it's only about height. And
perfect on top of a Detolf. Definitely. So again, these were a lot of the considerations. It was quite a bold move to go, let's not go easy. Let's not just put him standing there. Let's do it in a way that he has all these different sort of poses going into it. I mean, what I mean is like he's that action pose and be quite adventurous with it, really. Ultimately that was something that we had to think a lot about back and forth, and really had to wrestle quite a lot about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a very long answer there. Yeah, you didn't answer the second question. What was the easiest?
The easiest thing was texturing his skin. There isn't any.
Well, there is some shadows.
But I mean physical textures.
Physical textures,
it's quite.
Because we don't want to go, because like I said, it's trying to find the right balance between the anime.
The easiest. I think the easiest thing was, it was quite straightforward to think about. Once we had the pose, to really come up with the base to make that pose work was pretty straightforward, to be honest with you. It was quite easy to come up with that. But yeah, definitely it was overall quite a difficult piece to make overall. I would definitely say it's harder than it was a harder piece to make, I should say. I mean, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
Engineering wise, it's not like it's just standing there. For example, I mean, just for comparison's sake, we recently just did Spyro the Dragon, and it's a dragon that has 4 feet on the ground, structurally very straightforward. It was very simple for what we had to try and.
There's a lot of materials as well, like 3D models and renders, which made it, like I said, we went back to from 2D to 3D.
Right.
So that was kind of the difficult part as well.
Right. So
in comparison to game models.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, definitely this piece overall was challenging, and it was something that we sort of relished in making it, and had to sort of think there and really sort of come back and forth and talk about what to do here and there. But ultimately, yeah, it was certainly difficult.
I mean, it's good. I mean, from
challenging ourselves.
From One Punch Man now into Champloo, and then hopefully the animes further down the line. There's quite a lot of things to learn on the way, and hopefully every piece that we launch will have you see the difference and the improvements that we put into the anime line.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Cool. Next question from Alessio Bucci. Did you have any problems with his hair?
So his hair is a
pretty wow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right now you see it. It is made actually from a. This is actually the factory counter sample.
Right.
But there is one thing that we need to actually do. There's a couple of things actually. And the first one is that the hair is going to be made in PVC. It needs to be done, otherwise this will be loads of chips on this, because you can see just how much that is there. But it will be done in a way that it's separated, that you can't really see. If you have a look sort of like at our Breath of the Wild link, it has a similar kind of hair flowy sort of style, and sort of hide that in the PVC. The other thing is, for example, these arrows will be made in die cast as well. So that's some of the changes that we're going to be having from the current counter sample in terms of the differences in material. So we'll be making those molds at a later stage during the production time.
Right.
So the hair at the moment was pretty difficult because it's in resin, and there have been quite a few where they have broken. So you know,
indeed. Yeah.
But it should not be a problem for the final production piece.
All right, cool. All right, next question from our admin, Jeremy Beerson.
Shout out to him.
All right, what feedback did the licensor give that helped shape Mugen into the piece he is today?
Speaking of shaping, well, you know, actually one of the things that the licensor was quite specific about was actually his profile. So when you look at him from the side, the way that his nose and his mouth and his chin, that line, that sort of, you know, that shape of it coming out to the nose, into the mouth, into the chin, was not quite accurate enough. And they actually helped to give a bit more feedback on how to improve on that. And it was actually quite straightforward and, you know, and spot on, and it helped make us get a bit more accurate with the face on that. So, you know, definitely that was really useful to have that. But overall, it was pretty straightforward. It was mainly about the face. I mean, they really loved the pose. They really liked what we had done with the base and all that sort of stuff.
The concept of
the composition, etc.
Bringing out the actual the character's movements and his personality as well, right?
Exactly right. Yeah. So you know that was something that they were happy with, of course. And going into the sort of smaller details that you don't ultimately normally see in the animes, like if you look at his fingers and his toenails, they're all there. They're all sculpted. You can see them. They're all sort of being individually painted and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, if you'll get a better view if you're actually looking at it from above. So imagine this was higher up. You can actually see, you know, the flip flops, you know, the toes, and you know the facial hair.
Yep.
The eyebrows with a cut.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, and also if you look at the top of his slippers, his wooden sandals, should I say, they have it's almost like it's got a kind of plating on top of it. Yeah. You can see, if I turn it over here.
The bottom one, right? Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
I'll see that. Yeah, there you go.
It's got this sort of metallic kind of sort of plating almost, that you could say. Because if you actually look from, let's see if you can see it from this angle there, the bottom half here is wood and the top part is the metal. You can actually see the layer of the metal on top. Right. And that was something that the licensor helped spot for us as well. We actually only had it as wood at the very beginning, earlier on in the design process. So we had to make sure that we had it. No, that's not correct. We had it as metal, but we didn't have it as a that distinct layer difference. Right. Where from the side you can really see that it's, you know, part wood, and then on top of the wood is the metal. Yeah. Because, you know, he uses his feet all the time in the fighting, and, you know, stopping people from attacking him. Yeah. Hits the metal.
That's good as well. He'll never have worn out flip flops or whatever you call them as well. The correct term, I can't remember what name you call them.
Wooden sandals, yo.
Wooden sandals. Right, so he'll never get them worn out. Just replace the metal plates.
There you go. Yeah. Like horse hooves.
Yeah, exactly. Right. All right. Next question from Hannah Mamoon. Did you guys actually watch any scenes, episodes for reference materials? If so, which was your favorite or had the most influence?
So, you know, the whole anime was, you know, I watched it right when it came out so many years ago. Yeah. And going back and rewatching it when we're coming back to doing the actual, you know, the piece itself. Again, when you look at something that's an anime that's has so many episodes, it's not just like it's not, for example, like a film where it's 1.5 hours, and you really have to be looking frame by frame because you don't have that much source material. Well, when you have these characters that are throughout the whole entire series, you actually have a ton of choices of what to do pose-wise. And then that's the difficulty, Chocks. You have to break it down.
Yeah.
And when you watch the entire series, to break it down into a way that you encapsulate the actual series in the one figure, in the one pose, in the one statue, in the one everything. So, of course, the influences, Hannah, from all the episodes that you watch, it's learning about his personality. That is what is the most important thing about watching the anime. You've got to learn his personality to be able to create a specific character, a specific statue for that character, and obviously a Mugen in this case. So, in terms of, was there a particular one, they were, the overall thing was, very, very strong. So I wouldn't say there was one particular sort of scene or anything like that that took a lot of influence from.
Right, next question from Jeremy Beerson again. It's no secret that Samurai Champloo had a strong rap and hip hop influence. What songs come to your mind when looking at the statue?
Well, you're absolutely right, Jeremy. The series is really known for being infused with this hip hop elements into it, and that whole Champloo is meaning mix, and sort of mixing it all together, etc., etc.
For me, whilst doing the research on this, there's like tons of albums that's been launched for the series, and it's quite a lot of catchy tunes and stuff, and just listening to them. Like sometimes when you look at the scene and you're too busy focusing on the fight scene, you forget about the tunes, and then but when you actually go back to it and trying to do, because obviously I had to research some music material for the documentary, just listening to them carefully, you'd be like, this is quite catchy, and it kind of like complements with that particular scene.
Especially if you just listen to it in solo without actually watching the anime, you're just listening to the official soundtrack. You can really just sort of focus more on the sound.
Yeah.
I like myself some DMX. Party Up, I'm a bit partial to that one. So anything
we all know that.
Bit of hip hop, that's what I sort of see.
Right, next question from Vincent Wolf Vargas. Any chance for a diorama of all three of them?
So he's obviously referring to, just in case you guys don't know about Samurai Champloo, there are three main guys, and that is obviously Mugen, Jin, and Fu. Now, we will, due to the size of this, we wanted to go with something quite big, 1/4 scale. We didn't plan for it to be a single diorama with all three of them. As you can see, it's obviously Mugen on his own. So we will be following that up with obviously Jin and Fu. So the answer is no, there was no plans for it to be as a diorama. However, having said that, they are intended to be part of a range where the bases kind of match. It's all part of that sort of fight scene. So Jin would be in a kind of action pose as well, and Fu would be, she doesn't quite do too much action, she's more sort of like running. So she'll be in a kind of running pose and all that sort of stuff. So a little bit, making sense as part of the whole scene.
Right.
Where you get the two boys, they're fighting Mugen, and Fu is sort of hanging back a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Last question. Constantinos Tamporis. Right. Shall we expect the usual trio to be released one each year going forward?
Yeah, right. So the usual trio again, talking about the main characters.
One a year?
Maybe we can even accelerate that. We've already very far deep into the development of Jin. He's almost finished at 3D. And, Fu, we already have the designs for that as well. Already started the sort of preliminary base sort of works on the 3D for Fu. So she's a little bit further behind. But yeah, absolutely. That is something that we would like to look into doing in terms of that schedule.
Cool. Well, there you go, guys. If you have any more questions, let us know in the comments in this documentary as well. Because we always go back into the videos and answer some of the questions there as well. So,
Absolutely.
Right.
Cool. What's next? The shoutouts.
You want to do this? Shoutouts first?
Or you want to do measurements first? The shoutouts.
Shoutouts first?
Shoutouts
All
first,
right. Shoutouts first. All yours.
You need to explain about what these shoutouts are.
All right then. Yeah. Oh, because I missed that. Yeah. So shoutouts. So basically, the documentary post I just mentioned right at the start of the video. Randomly, at any time, I will make a post saying, "Hey guys, first 10 people to reply to the comments will get a shout out from Alex." So that section will happen anytime. So keep a lookout for that. Just set that notification on for that post. Yeah.
Anytime, guys. Always pay attention.
Yeah. 24/7. Boom in your face.
Shout out to Ben Stroud. What is going on, mate? Nice one to Matthew Goggins. Or Goggans, I should say. How's it going, mate? And we have Austin Paul. You got a shout out and you got your question as well. So double shout outs there. Jeremy Pearson, boom boom. Lovely admin right there. We've got Stephen Cool. But that is a very cool name. Shout out to you. We have Cedric Bardo. How's it going, mate? We have Vincent Wolfargas. Shout out to you, mate. Travis Murphy. And of course, our lovely Jessica Castic. How's it going? Boom, bada bing, bada boom. Done.
That was quick.
So guys, what you see right here is the regular version. You get these lovely arrows that you can see in the base. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In those are going to be made in die cast.
There's one behind here. There's 4 at the front. Well, 2 at the front, 2 round the back,
so around the middle,
front, and then 1 at the back as well. These will be die cast.
Die cast. Yep. And then you can see the rest of it. Everything that you see here. This is the regular version.
Or I believe this sword is also in die cast as well.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the regular version, you can see, it has this quite of a stern face, quite of a serious face. Intent to kill, intent to rescue.
Not intent to tickle someone. So, guys, this is the regular version, and we have an exclusive version as well. So, should we show a bit of that off then, Tops?
Okay.
I'll just pause this right now.
So, how do we do this? Look at that.
Check it out, guys.
There we go. 4 swords.
4 extra swords that will be, right now they're not in it yet, but we're going to make these into die cast, and these can be nicely inserted in.
I don't know why. I was yeah.
Inserted into the base to give it that little extra something. Yep. So should we?
So for example, I'm going to insert one behind, like so.
Yep.
Was it that way? Oh, this way.
Yep. That's cool.
All right, so guys, we will make sure these, because right now these are not die cast, so
it's a little bit bendy right now.
Bendy, a little bit wobbly.
Obviously, once it's in metal, you won't have that issue.
Yeah, it will add extra weight to it as well.
Yeah.
Look at that exclusive version: 5 die cast arrows and 4 extra die cast swords. That's a lot. That's a lot.
And it really adds a little bit more craziness to that. Just that little bit extra craziness to the scene. Obviously, you've seen that there are these 5 arrows going in there, and he's fighting, and it's all crazy like that.
And now it's like adding these swords just makes the whole scene much more intense.
Just that extra bit more of intensity, absolutely. So, he's in the middle of this crazy fight scene. Samurais coming after him, Ronin after him. Everyone's after them, etc., etc. Check that out, guys. So let's give that. Let's give that a count again. So we have, what we said was, we start off with the 5 arrows. We have 1 at the back here. So there's 1 here, 2 in the middle, and 2 at the front. So giving you a total of 5.
Yep.
Then you have 2 swords over here, 1 sword over here, and 1 sword at the back as well. So
don't forget the sword he's holding as well. This is a much longer sword.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and it's very specific to Mugen, that's his sword. So you can see that the hilts are different, etc. So there is a huge number of different weapon accessories that just add that little bit more craziness, that little bit more intensity to the battle scene.
Yeah.
And to make it even that little bit more intense, what do we have, Jocks?
Yes, indeed.
Check it out, guys. We have, boom, another version of his head where his mouth is open, just for a bit more intensity. And the way he's looking like, remember, he's looking from below. So the way he's looking is he's looking upwards, so that when it's on his body, it makes sense for the direction that he's looking. Chocks, do you want to give a go at changing that over?
Yeah, it's like with his open mouth, you can see his tongue and the teeth, and it's much more screaming or shouting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got that expression. Yeah.
Right,
Pause that.
Pause that for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the exclusive version will come with, as Alex is saying, 5 different arrows, 4 extra die-cast swords, 2 extra heads, right?
1 extra head, because he comes with 1 head.
Yeah.
So the regular will come with 1 head.
2 heads in total. Nice.
It would be nice for us, the regular to have 1 head, yeah.
Ooh, and just hold on to the body itself.
Yeah. Be careful when you change it, guys. There you go.
And then we'll have a nice. You want to show the regular head as well.
Yeah.
So
as you're doing
side
that,
by let's do it side by side so you can see the difference. The exclusive version will come with these 2 heads. Ooh, you want to hold that up?
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
There you go, guys. You can see. You can get some great different expressions in that. Yeah, it looks cool, doesn't it? You can even see his uvala.
Yeah.
See uvala.
Oh, it looks really weird on the camera without the head.
We better put it in then.
All right.
That's it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's fine. Cool. Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. Nice flush fit.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And now you can see from the side profile a bit more there.
You just about see the mouth.
Mouth is being open.
Probably get a better view on this side actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that side there. There you go.
There you go. That's badass. All right, that's it. Check it out, guys. This is coming around to put the original other head.
It's kissing the table.
And that's why you guys know that why we have to put the hair in PVC to avoid that sort of thing. So there you go, guys. That is the exclusive version. Hopefully you like what you see. Yeah. And definitely it was a lot of fun working on him.
Yeah.
Most definitely. So you had a look at this. You decided you want to buy the regular. Hey, maybe you decided you want to buy the exclusive. You now want to see what's the size, what's the weight, so you can find that perfect space for the location, for that space for your collection. So, Chocks, do we have some dimensions and some weights?
Yes, we do. We want to do the Coke can test first?
Hey, you're absolutely right. So why don't we just do that? I'm just going to pause that over there.
All right. Yep.
Give this a turn. Chocks, I'm just going to pass you across the regular head. So let's see how tall this is. So we have 1, 2. Is that enough, Chocks? No, and you need to keep going, I think.
Do we have enough?
3, 4.
Do we have enough?
Wow, okay, this is actually quite beastly tall. Yeah, 5, no, we do have enough, just about.
Just off the camera as well, 5.5-ish?
Yes, I would say.
Just under 5.5.
Maybe just under 5.5. So he's definitely got some nice height.
Yeah, guys, this is 330ml cans.
That's right. So for our American family across the pond, it is actually usually 355, I believe, they use.
Yep.
So it's just a little bit bigger. So just put that into consideration.
Right.
But if you don't have 330 ml cans, we have some actual dimensions for you. Yeah,
actual figures, measurements. So let's start from here, the height. So right now I'm measuring from the bottom of the base
to the top of the shoe.
I've got that just slightly under 24 inches.
That sounds crazy, yeah? From the bottom of the base to the top of the shoe.
Exactly.
Oh, it must be upside down.
So that's around about 60 cm.
60 centimeters.
Yeah,
wow,
60 centimeters.
Yeah, that's tall.
Yeah, 59, 60 cm, so thereabouts. Okay?
That's 2 foot tall.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, so yeah, it's very, very tall.
Yeah.
And then the width, which will be from this side, far end to kind of like this sword here, right to the edge, I've got that about 16 inches wide, and that's around about 41 centimeters.
Okay.
Yeah. 16 inches wide, 41 centimeters.
Cool.
Okay, and then the depth, which will be the front of the sword, because it's angled facing forward, to the back of this sword, which is also angled further back, and I've got that at about 14 inches.
And of course, if you have the regular version, it'll be slightly shorter because you don't have this extra sword.
You don't have the sword
at
the back. Yeah. So right now, the exclusive version will be 14 inches in depth, which is 56 centimeters.
Right.
Yeah. And then obviously we'll have the regular measurements on the website as well once we have all that information.
Sure.
Later. Yeah. And then the weight. Right now is roughly around about 4.59 kg. But guys, remember these right now are not in die cast, so you got to consider those extra die cast pieces. It's going to add a little bit more weight to it.
And that's for the exclusive version.
This is exclusive version, yeah. I did a quick regular weight as well, just roughly about 4.58.
Sure.
So it's not right now. It's not making it
because we haven't got them in die cast yet,
right,
and that should make quite a little bit. So I would allow for a little bit more leeway based on that, maybe an extra 5 to 10%.
That's right, yeah.
Something like that when considering, I would believe. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, great. That, I believe, is it, isn't it? Right, Chops?
I believe that's it.
Guys, do please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We hope that you now know significantly more about how to some of the design choices and some of the thought processes that we had with actually creating Mugen. And because if you have any questions or what have you, you can write it in the YouTube channel comments, or you can let us know on Facebook, and we'll be sure to sort of help you answer any of those sort of questions. And obviously, if you haven't joined our Collectors Club on Facebook, please do so as well.
And if you want to see more anime lines that we're working on, please sure to join our official First for Figures official Collectors Club on Facebook as well, because we've got a lot of animes in the work. So hopefully there'll be much more coming soon.
Absolutely, guys. So watch the space.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Chocks.
All right,
that's another one wrapped up.
Awesome.
I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm Chuckles.
F4F is love.
F4F is life.
We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Laters.